everybody. Welcome to the Sharon and Joe Show. My name is Sharon.
Hi, everybody. My name's Joe.
So the pressure is on Joe this week. Are you ready?
I think so. Sharon wanted me to come up with a topic. He's like, oh, crap. Sharon's the brains behind the whole organization. But, this last week I was thinking, well, a good topic would be is the thrill of the hunt.
Actually, I have to tell you something funny about Joe. This morning, Joe is working. All right, we were both working today, but Joe left before me and got home after me. But he gets to work and he sends me this text, and we're just texting back and forth. And at one point, I said something like, I'll be thinking about you today. I love you. And you replied and you said, I'll be thinking about tonight's video. And then you were like, the hunt and the prey or something like that. And I'm like, all right, well, thanks for the heads up.
Well, I think it's important for people. We were going to talk about the thrill of the hunt, the narcissistic predator and the codependent empathic prey, and similarities, differences, and what brings us recipe for disaster together. We saw yesterday a documentary on tornadoes, and tornadoes, I guess, are on a spectrum too. Like you got your EF1s and EF5s, and the menu in the recipes there, though, you got the hot air and the cold air and the vortex and the vertical wind coming up, and then you got a tornado. Well, narcissistic personality disorder is also on a spectrum, just like empathy is. It's an invisible spectrum, just like there is when they cross over to the disorder part. But, Dr. Robert Hare, he made the checklist in the DSM-5 for psychopathy, calls them intraspecies predators.
That's chilling. That's chilling.
Well, I was with
when you first said that to me, it did something to me. Well, I understood it.
He's the dude that everybody looked up to, that actually started this whole gig. And as much as he's a doctor and understands, biologically speaking, they're part of the human race, he actually branches them like a sub-branch off. And it's just crazy. When you think about predators, so you got your opportunistic predators, you got your ambush predators like the boa constrictors, and then you got actively seek and hunt predators like a lion. And speaking of that, in the Bible in Peter 5 verse 8, it says, be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. And I joke around, I don't beat myself up too much, but my dumb ass had no clue. I was raised in a narcissistic and abusive home. I didn't really understand that there's things out there like that.
Well, I think that happens to all of us. For many of us, I would say the majority of people that end up with a narcissist grew up probably similarly to you or I. Like you grew up in a narcissistic home. That's like when I really think about that, it's all you know. It's what you know. Like this is how life is. Yeah.
As much as you could learn different things on TV or from other friends, like what you experience is what you know.
And what you and I try to do with our kids is teach them what they deserve. You've said something, and it really is so good. You want to talk about it, about like being basically level up, have somebody else level up to you. Don't level down.
Yeah, I was my youngest son. He's a great kid. I love him so much, and he was hanging out with some kids that really didn't want him hanging out with. And we talked about what his values are and what he believes in. And I said, John, we're better or worse than nobody. We all stand shoulder to shoulder, but these values you need to hold true and stay strong. Don't ever level down to anyone. Like if you're up and there's a person that wants to come up to you, you have your arm out there ready for them if they're willing, and let them level up to you, but never level down. And that's what I did. I leveled down. I didn't realize I got
you don't realize it, but
a pig in a pen. I got dirty, to say the least.
But I think it's interesting when you talk about narcissists in terms of actually being a predator. So let's talk a little bit about what a predator does. Like what is a predator?
Well, let's talk. Yeah, let's talk about that. I believe, like most human beings, I believe that there's a spectrum of consciousness. I was not fully conscious myself. I think that narcissists know exactly as far as I think in their mind they call it a game, and they get off on it, and they know that. Although I don't think that they know what the game and how they act is just a symptom of something much deeper. I don't think they're aware like, oh shit, I got to wake up today and find some supply, and I need attention and adoration, or like I'm going to go into a narcissistic collapse. I just believe though that they study. I don't know if empaths give off pheromones but these things got spidey senses, and they can tell by studying you like your dislikes, your likes, how you act, your behavior, if you're nice, if you're kind, if their lack of empathy and compassion, they think to themselves, part of their egomaniac with an inferiority complex is they think they're strong. And when they see people that are compassionate, loving, and kind, they're like, it's just like flies or moths to a flame. It's they can't help it, and the game begins.
Yeah, I agree with you. I can see that being the case. One thing that I've learned when it comes to narcissism, it's like I knew that this existed before, but it wasn't. And it's so weird to me because I guess it's the cognitive dissonance. I grew up this way. It's always been around me, but I didn't realize that evil was so real. Like I knew it was real, but there's like true vileness, evilness, and that's a narcissist. They're cruel.
We invited them into our lives and married them. The mask was on, the cognitive dissonance was into a full swing, the gaslighting there, and
today sometimes you and I will just talk about stuff, and it's just the abject cruelty it's so disgusting. But I think a narcissist, back to kind of what we were saying, I think they can kind of sense it, because sometimes you'll meet somebody or you'll see somebody, you don't even have to talk to them, and you can just tell, like, oh, that's a good person, or how many people have, especially you women, have you ever gotten a bad vibe from a guy? You'll be somewhere like, oh, I don't know, I need to lock my door.
There's been people I've met where, like, it's just they had something that I wanted, like this peace about them, as the vibrations and what they're vibing out. They operate on like low frequency, man. Shame, just bad feelings, man. Just bad frequency.
Well, I wonder almost like if you're watching a nature show, right, and you'll see like the predator will always go after the weakest prey. And it's not, I don't think that empaths are weak, but I think maybe we are. Maybe our boundaries make us that weak, the old or young prey.
There's William James is a psychologist, and you talked about that. Did you ever watch the lions in the Serengeti during the dry season? The bison and the water buffalo will cross the plains. They got to go over to the other side of the Nile so they can find green grass to eat.
Yeah.
And these lions, these pride of lions, are just watching. Who's the gullible one? Who's the young one? Who's the old one?
Yes.
And William James talks about the herd instinct. And like what Sharon and I do, and what Sharon does, 4 days a week when she does her videos, is like we stay in a herd. We have like a flock that we stay close together and protect each other, so that if we ever feel weak, we have somebody to reach out to, the tribe, the group, whatever, so that we're not the ones straying away from that herd. Because like, as I said from the beginning, the devil's like a roaring lion, man, and he's seeking to destroy and get anybody that he can. It's just, and their ammunition, like you have lions that got the teeth and the claws and all that. They have the love bombing, the mirroring, stonewalling, triangulation. It just list goes on and on.
One thing, though, that we all need to remember when we're dealing with a narcissist, because sometimes it seems overwhelming. Because you and I both agree that this is not. It's spiritual warfare. And when I say spiritual warfare, I mean it's literally this heavenly battle. It sounds crazy, but it's true.
If you believe even in like frequencies and vibrations and positive and negative, it's very much spiritual warfare. Like there's things that you just can't explain, and it's like, thank God they're so robotic. Because we have their playbook.
Exactly. I was starting to go there when I kind of veered off. But yeah, exactly. When you're dealing with a narcissist, Joe and I, we're different than each other, or you and us, or whatever. But narcissists, they really are. Once you understand narcissism, my narcissist, your narcissist, like your narcissist, everybody's, they follow the same major playbook.
It's just incredible. We're so lucky and fortunate. Like, imagine if like we didn't have Google and I wasn't able to look this up on the internet 3.5 years ago. Like, I would have been baffled, man. I would have thought I was going crazy.
That's actually the main reason I started this channel. And now, and it's only been 2 years, but still, like, there's so much that I've learned even just since then. That was such an issue for me, the confusion, the utter confusion. It made zero sense. It looked like the most easy thing in the world to do, and he would always do something else, like every single time. So when I found out about narcissism, it was almost like I cured cancer. Like, seriously, I must tell people. I have to tell people.
It's insane. Like I didn't know that when I was read those childhood fables and the monsters really do exist. And when I
They
learned about
do.
it, I was like, holy crap.
You know, you say a lot sometimes. I get where you're going with this, but narcissism is on a spectrum. Do you think that? See, I feel like a lower end narcissist is still going to be more than you could ever handle in your life.
Yeah, it's once you reach the point of it's actually a disorder.
Yeah.
It's like if you guys ever heard the story about the frog and the scorpion, and the scorpion asked the frog for a lift across the riverbank, and the frog says no at first because he was scared to get stung. The scorpion lays on some, his sales pitch and says, well, if I sting you, then we're both going to drown because I don't know how to swim. Sure enough, the gullible frog lets him on his back, and halfway across the river, he feels that sting. They start drowning, and he asks the scorpion, why'd you do that? Now we're both going to die. The scorpion said, I can't help it. It's just in my nature. And narcissists will throw you, your kids, and even themselves under the bus if they think, like in their mind, they're cocky enough to say, I can survive it, but if it's going to hurt you, they'll do it.
Oh, they'll do it 100%. I think a lot of us, especially with kids, have witnessed that, or not witnessed, experienced it. Both our exes will do the same thing. They want to hurt us, and if they hurt the kids, well, so be it.
What do you call
whatever.
that? Casualties of war?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's horrible. Now, it's not even fair that we compare them with animals because animals pretty much operate in instinct.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done research on psychopathy, narcissist personality disorder, their brains.
That is really true because an animal, I don't think an animal could be a psychopath.
They're not really, they're not really.
They're not advanced. They're not advanced enough, I don't think.
Well, God, disadvanced because it's not advanced to become a psychopath. It's like a play on words, but they're not like looking to.
I just want to say I didn't quite mean that. I mean that you can be above something else. Like you're not
I don't
just
think
like
they're looking out like they have. There's a German word for a Schadenfreude, where they actually get a sick ass pleasure out of somebody else's pain. They're like there to eat or survival or reproduction. Like the narcissist I was getting at, like the brain scans show the part of the brain that functions the most is called the reptilian brain. We all have mammalian brains, but the fight or flight, it operates very much so on instinct. The bad part.
It's pure instinct. It's black and white. It's not, there's no nuance there.
Yes and no, because unlike a lot of animals, most of them, they know right from wrong. They are responsible for what they do. They are not scientifically, like psychologically, they are not insane. They know right from wrong.
But let me ask you a question, because that makes me wonder if now, just to say this, I have no empathy, no pity, nothing for a narcissist.
That'll get you killed, by the way. Like we got some comments sometimes when we kind of touch somebody the wrong way, maybe, and they're like, well, you have to forgive. And it's just like, yeah, that's great. And don't ever forget and stay away, because it was the empathy and compassion. And it was blind. It was martyrdom on my part. It almost killed me giving that to the hands of this creature.
Look, the reality is Joe and I don't want to be alarmist or freak anybody out, but when we make these videos, we're telling you things that really happen to us.
Please.
Yeah.
The NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, does not give what these things are justice.
No, it doesn't.
Like they should call them F5 tornadoes.
No, it's not narcissistic personality disorder sounds.
It sounds
so
like,
lame.
well, maybe he sounds like maybe there's something a little bit,
like
bipolar or something like that.
Well, not
depressive.
even that. I think it makes it seem exclusively like the way that you look, like you're vain, like the narcissist is vain, like you're a narcissist. That's what I think.
Their lack of empathy, if at best cognitive empathy, and their lack of insight, their ability to rationalize anything under the sun and project. That makes them absolutely 100% dangerous.
I also, it's not, and it's, yes, you're right, 100%. I just don't want to forget also, think for yourself. If you didn't have a conscience, you don't have a conscience, you don't have empathy, you literally don't care.
Well, say you do. But it's 2%. Like, say everybody's normal, say by our normal empathy level and consciousness and compassion level, say it's 75%. They're like 2 or 3%.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much like nothing.
But think what you could do. Imagine what you could do.
And then when your brain is so dysfunctional that you could rationalize why you did it, and project when somebody, like anybody looks at you.
I mean, this is why a narcissist is dangerous and why a narcissist can't change. Because in order to change for anything, for us, that's the real secret with healing when you're in a narcissistic entanglement, when you are the codependent, you are the empath. It's working on yourself, understanding who the narcissist is, but working on yourself. And like in today's video, just understanding that, when you don't even know that you're in a game with a narcissist and
they
you're being
cheat.
hunted right now.
It's not even fair, because they don't even tell you that you're in a game. It's just like by the time that you're in the middle of that, you're in the middle of a web.
Yeah.
And it's very dangerous. So I agree 100%. So basically, I believe that there's something in us empaths and our actions, the way we carry ourselves. They unconsciously see that light inside. They justify it by saying that we're weak, and they get off on it by saying, okay, I'm going to play a game. They don't say like, oh shit, I have to play this game or I'm going to collapse.
No, I think it feels good. They know it feels good and they enjoy it. And I think also it's kind of like, if you think like Joe and I have 3 dogs. So the 2 females, the male, he's older, he has cancer, so he's kind of off, to his side. But the 2 females, one of the females really wants to be the dominant dog, and she lives that way. She, like, if I take the dogs out for a walk, if the not the inferior, but the one that isn't the dominant one goes to the bathroom, the other one has to go right on top. I mean, she always has to lead the way. I feel like a narcissist is like that in a way, where they look at us and they are better than us, and they must.
We're weak.
Yeah,
the empathy and compassion and love. We're weak, and I truly think that it's deeper than jealousy. It's like a deadly sin, like envy, where they envy that, but in their head, well, I'm a lot smarter and better, and I'm going to prove myself to that.
Yeah, I think so too. And they enjoy it. There's like a part of them, they enjoy it, and they don't feel bad about enjoying it.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
They'll put something. Say like a narcissist, I don't know, hurts you, but they'll justify it themselves. Well, I had to do that because he did this or she said that, and there's always a justification. They can't ever look at what they have done, who they really are, why people feel the way that they do.
They don't care.
No, I guess that's what it is.
They know right from wrong.
Oh, I was starting to say this before. So when you say right from wrong, but does it matter if you don't care? You know what I mean?
I think that there might be people out there that don't care but choose to do the right thing anyways.
Yeah.
Like, this is just something that's totally a spiritual warfare.
Because I heard this quote one time, and it said, if you believe a lie is the truth, it's not a lie. So it just makes me think, like, in a similar vein, when you're dealing with a narcissist, if they know something is wrong with, they don't understand, you know what I mean, what right or wrong is necessarily, because there's no moral conscience in there, how responsible are they for that?
Clinically speaking, scientifically speaking, they're not insane. Insane is not knowing the truth, like not knowing right from wrong. They are absolutely 100% responsible for their own actions. And there's never,
I agree with that.
Yeah, and it ain't nobody going to tell me. Now, if somebody was like absolutely like schizophrenic or like did something like that, God bless them. I had an uncle that had schizophrenia. I understand that, but they are 100% responsible for what they did. They're worse than an animal. They're an animal with rabies.
Well, the thing is, an animal doesn't know. It has to survive every day. A narcissist, it's different. They live in a functioning society. They don't have to live like an animal. They choose to live like an animal, and that's a huge difference.
It's the driving force behind it is fuel, is supply, they don't understand that. They could do the right thing if they want to and still get it. It's just they don't care. Let's talk. I mentioned about the tornadoes at the beginning, right? When we watched the tornado video, the different spectrum from EF1 to EF5. Let's talk about the recipe for the tornado. We talked about the predator, right? Let's talk about the prey. Let's talk about us. And I'm speaking for myself and Sharon, like us codependent empaths. Like, how do we fit into that recipe? Like, what is it that they see in us, or what are our own shortcomings that allowed us to tolerate the abuse for 20 years, to ignore the red flags, to be delusional ourselves? What do you think?
Well, right in front comes the word boundaries. Like there are no boundaries. So if you don't have any boundaries,
Well, even if we have boundaries, we don't even have to go to that extreme. We have boundaries, but they're very weak. We came from abusive families where that's all we knew. And again, it doesn't give us a 100% excuse to be like, it was all the narcissist.
No, it doesn't. But I just think of the difference. You or I, and this is what gets to me sometimes. We didn't know. Like what you just said. We grew up in these households. It's all we've ever known. That was standard. But if I think about the difference between the way that we teach our children, how they should be, how important they are.
We tell them about it like just the same way. Like if you saw a tornado down the street, you stay the F away.
Yeah.
Stay away.
Exactly. Yes. If you are around somebody toxic, 100%. I mean, think about how great your life would be if you saw toxic people and you stayed away from them. You concentrated on your own life and not trying to be, I don't know, save somebody who really needs to save themselves.
You talked about like weak boundaries. There was another thing I think for me too was, as much as I've been around the block a lot, I was still inexperienced and gullible when it came to quote unquote people out there like them. I had no discernment inside myself.
I don't think a lot of people do. I think it's when it's like anything. When something bad happens to you, then you feel it, you experience, it's real. Otherwise, I mean, how many times do people go around thinking, well, cancer might happen to somebody else, not to me, and then they get it, and it's like, oh my gosh, but this wasn't supposed to happen to me. So it's like evil exists. I knew it existed, but once I came face to face with it,
even when I was face to face with it, I decided to get married to it.
Yeah, but
I was
no, I'm
face to face
talking
with the
about
mask.
when you saw the real, whatever
Then I
you want to
knew.
call it. Yeah, exactly.
There's a saying that smart people learn from their own mistakes and wise people learn from others. And part of the reason why we do this is to kind of raise the bottom for anybody else that maybe like we can hold up signals with signs to say, hey, don't go down this road or whatever. That's what we're hoping to do. So I know that like my inexperience with these kind of creatures and I
just that they existed, even just that.
Yeah, I used to watch crime shows all the time. I knew there were psychopaths out there and like people that could do monstrous things. I was always told, don't ever get in a car with a stranger, blah, 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 this and that. It's just, these are so covert, like a wolf in sheep's clothing, that I just thought they were part of the herd, meaning the human race. And it wasn't that way. Another thing, like as far as me being the codependent, is like, a lot of times I call it martyrdom. And my friend always used to tell me, he said, Joe, they're not going to make a stained glass window across the street in your honor, at the church. Yeah. I had this martyrdom thing going on where I put other people ahead of me. And part of my gig is that coming from a broken home, I didn't want my kids to come from a broken home. So I believed that delusion. And
I think we're all delusional to a degree. Because I wanted my ex to be a certain way, and I had convinced myself that he was.
Yeah, and I'm responsible for that. There's certain things that I am responsible for, but I chased that delusion to the gates of insanity and almost death. It was just, so you have that recipe for that tornado, because a narcissist on its own is just like a whirling dervish. It's just out there whirling. But when you bring a human being involved with that is the tornado.
But I think it's up to us, which is good because we have some control over that. Because the narcissists, they just are going to just do what a narcissist does. I mean, there is no discernment. This is what you're dealing with. But us, we can learn, we can grow, we can get rid of our codependency, we can still be empathetic, but in a way that isn't detrimental to ourselves.
Yeah, I think that I was very wrapped up emotionally. My thinking and my decision making was all based on emotion, and it was usually reactive. I finally started to see, I started to look at things more logically, where, okay, here are the facts, and started thinking more logically, which somewhere along the line, my thinking started to change. I definitely needed God's help, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but it's just stay away. Just stay away.
Yeah, once you know what you're dealing with, I agree with you, Joe. But I think it begins really with well, I know it begins with breaking the codependency, learning about who you are, and setting up boundaries, like enforceable boundaries. Because the real secret that it's, like Joe and I
Level
talked.
up.
Well, it's not just that, but Joe and I talked a little while ago about how you know the narcissist playbook, you understand that, but there's other things connected to that. And one of the things that really surprised me, because, and I think for most people, you're in an entanglement with a narcissist, you feel like the narcissist is the powerful one, but the reality is it's you're the one with all the power, because you have the power to change, to grow, adapt. You're not like just flowing in the wind like a piece of paper.
When you engage your brain logically and you start understanding and acquiring knowledge, not to feed your emotions, but to see things for what they are, factual, you come to realize that they wanted to play a game and they cheated. They never wanted you to know so that they could win. Like, you'll understand that, like, I call Sharon's ex a man-child. They're dangerous babies. Like, it's just, you start to look at things for what they are and factual, and you begin your journey, by actually, ironically, dipping into the spiritual part of the biggest fact of my life, that God is love. That I can have a personal connection. That maybe this experience happened because I needed enough pain to cry out to Him so that I could get to know Him.
See, I don't agree with that. I know you feel that way. I think for me, I think that it's almost like I think that all the red flags that you had, I had, everybody has, even when we don't see them, that was God. Like, hey, hello, yoo-hoo, over here.
He taps and he kind of nudges it gently and then finally he'll kick you in the ass.
But I think, exactly, but I think it's almost like he made lemonade out of lemons. Like, I don't think I got into an entanglement, or you did, with this person to teach you something. I think you did it against what God was trying to warn you, and he got you out.
I agree with that. I can collaborate with that. That's a good way of looking at it.
Kind of how. Well, that is how I look at it. But and it's true though. There's so many benefits to. I don't know. I guess that sounds weird. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that there are benefits to what happened to us. Like, for me today, I am comfortable in my skin in a way that I never was before, because I did the inner work. Like, I know who I am. I'm comfortable with who I am, and I'm okay with the way other people think of me. Before I used to be so like paranoid and self-conscious. I'm not like that anymore.
I believe that there was a part of me that was broken before the narcissist ever came.
Oh, I think so too.
And I don't think the narcissist is like the biggest problem, because when they leave, like, I was still the cognitive dissonance, and I was still broken and trying to pick up the pieces. It's like I had to look at what part of me was broken that they saw.
Well, I think you had the after effects of the tornado, right? You had to pick up the shingles on the ground and whatever it was and start over.
Yeah, and thank God, like, we're aware of the roaring lion today, that they are out there, and it's the stakes are high. It's just so.
Well, think about it, you guys. Imagine if there really was a lion roaming around your neighborhood right now. Would you go outside? I mean, Joe, if the neighbor called and was like, "Oh my gosh, there's a lion," would you want to put the dogs outside?
Hell no. I don't even like going outside when I think there's just hawks or eagles, because they're tiny.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess the point is that there really is evil in this world. It exists. It's a real thing. It's not just a word that has a definition that's meaningless to us because we can't relate to it. So when we're dealing with a narcissist, just remember, like, it really is. It's a hunter-prey situation.
And you don't even have to be spiritual. Like, if you look up the definition of evil in the dictionary, and you believe, for the most part, like, what you do is what defines you, the things that they do is very simple are evil.
Well, I agree. Because evil, you or I think of it in a spiritual way, but yeah, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't matter how you become evil. It's just that the evil exists. So, and that's really what we're trying to get to.
If we're going to wrap it up in a couple minutes, but I wanted to share with you guys something. It was from in our Bible, John. I think it's chapter 8, verse 44. He says, "You are of your father, the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks of his own native tongue, for he is a liar and the father of lies."
When we were talking about that earlier, that just really, I don't know, it just hit me, because that's what a narcissist is, just a liar. It comes It's so shocking to me. Like Joe and I were watching the show yesterday, and it was about this woman, and she was just really messed up. She was saying all these lies. She said she was like this rich heiress, and then she was trying to buy property that fell through, and then she said she was pregnant, but she wasn't, and she ended up killing somebody. It was crazy. And I kept saying to Joe, I can't imagine. Like, I just can't imagine telling lie after lie after lie, knowing I'm going to get caught.
Well, they don't think about, like, it's instant gratification, immediate gratification. They don't think far enough ahead to know the ramifications, and they think they're smart enough to get away with it. And, you know, I believe that, like, all of us have narcissistic qualities. We can be selfish and self-centered. You know, I remember there was a time when I started drinking and doing drugs at a really young age. I used to lie to my friends or people I didn't meet, a girl or something, like, yeah, I do this, I've done that, I've done that. It was always like to be a people pleaser and try to impress somebody. It was never to like want to harm somebody or sucker them into like this just trap.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's true. And you know what? I'm glad I can't relate to that, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you can relate to it or not. It's just as long as you understand that's what you're dealing with. So I think ultimately we can even just end the video with this. When you're around a toxic individual like that, just stay the heck away.
And stay in the herd. Like we were talking about this a little while ago. I think Dr. William James, a psychologist, talks about the herd theory. And it was like he was talking about how during the dry seasons, the antelope water buffalo will cross the plains to get over to the river to get the grass on the other side. And there's a pride of lions, usually a couple of them, that are watching. They're watching for the weak one, the young one, the old senile one, the one that falls back to kill. And, you know, we do this because I remember when I first started learning about narcissism and personality disorder, when I found like people that understood, the first thing was, okay, I'm not alone and I'm not crazy.
That was huge for me as well.
And talking about like sheep and the flock is like, I had to reach out to the good shepherd, man. You know, thank God that faith was instilled in me when I was little. Before, like, while I was in the womb, and I knew I had to call out to him, and thank God he recognized that I was one of his sheep.
Yep, I'm with you too. I think that's, well, for many people have said that God saved them from the narcissist. That happened to me, and I know it happened to you.
Part of the dynamics of the spiritual part of it is like, some people have argued, yeah, they all act the same. They must have the Jezebel spirit and this. I don't know about that. Like any kind of illness or sickness, usually the symptoms are common. That means nothing. It's if you listen to the victims, the devastation, the destruction, you see it in their eyes when their mask is off, the pure spite and hatred. It's ancient. It like comes from something ancient.
And you can feel it. You can feel it throughout your whole body. There's something
once
very,
that damn
very
mask goes
wrong.
off, like,
yeah,
and it's just like,
once you
will
see
never
forget it.
Yeah, you will not forget it. And oh God. So I was beyond human aid, and I needed, my best thinking got me married to one for 20 years, man, and I allowed abuse to happen, and I take responsibility for it, but it wasn't me who got myself out. And for the most part, the stories that I hear, there was a power greater than themselves.
Yeah, I agree. That's pretty common. Joe, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, let me know, you guys, how the topic was, because I usually don't come up with topics or anything like that. And I'll shut up next time if it sucked, but hopefully it was okay, and hopefully somebody learned something from it.
I think it was a good topic. So let us know, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. I hope you guys have a great week, and I guess that's it. Bye,
Yeah, God
everybody.
bless you.
Bye.